Welcome back, everybody. Party Chat Sports. I'm Caleb Gill. We got Dylan Schroeder, and then Cam is here. But what you're going
Hello.
to see throughout the episode for Cam and his little monitor, his screen, is a current look of the playoff picture for the NFL. 24 out of 32 teams still alive. Three-quarters of the league is still potentially in the playoff picture right now with 2 weeks to go. This is unprecedented. This is unheard of. So we figured, you know what? Let's just do an entire show on the playoff picture with how many teams that are left. It felt that was a little bit necessary. So I did a little recap of week 16 on that is currently up. That was put out yesterday. That's just a podcast. This one is going to be podcast in YouTube, but playoff picture 2 weeks away. This is exactly how it should be, right? I feel like in past years it's been all right. At this point, we already know who the number one seed is. Most of the divisions are already locked up. There really isn't a lot to fight for except for maybe 2 spots total. It's what it seems like by the time you get to this point of the year. I already
Yeah,
mentioned 24 teams either clinched or still alive for the playoffs. Bananas.
it looks very cool. Yes, it does. Like if you, especially
P-A-N-A-N-A-S.
if you look at the AFC side, it's awesome. Like there's a lot of good teams fighting. Like you got Seattle and the Steelers going against each other for a playoff spot in their respective conferences. And then you look at the NFC where it's just people trying to basically just self-destruct themselves. They don't want to be in the playoffs, aka the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Gil. This is what you want to see. I mean, this is as exciting as it gets for regular season NFL football. I mean, basically, the playoffs have started. Like, if you're one of these teams that's on the bubble, in the AFC, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 teams that are all 8-7 that are fighting for spots. There's 2 more teams that are 1 game back at 7 and 8. You lose, you're done. Pretty much. I mean, obviously you'll still play next week, but if you lose, your playoff chances are pretty much over. And then same thing in the NFC. You got a couple of 8-7 teams, a couple of 7-8 teams, and everyone is scratching and clawing. Like with 2 games to go, and with so many teams just 1 game apart from each other, and tiebreakers and craziness. This is what you want to see at the end of the regular season. I'm sure the NFL is loving it right now. And pretty much the playoffs have started for quite a bit of teams so far. And then you got that. Then you got that fighting at the top too that you mentioned. So
yeah, there's currently only 6 teams that have officially clinched playoff spots. 4 of those in the NFC. The NFC is we're starting to get a pretty clear picture of how the NFC is going to look. Whoever wins the NFC East is going to be that 2 seed. San Francisco is going to be the 1. And we're going to run down through all the seeding. We'll mention where it stands as of today.
We'll see who gets the 1
27th.
over there. We'll see who gets the 1.
Things are going to change.
Look at the chart. It's right there.
Yeah, look at the beautiful chart that Cam has made there. You see it on. I guess it might be on the right side of the screen. I don't know where it'll end up, but a great rundown of where everything's at. So why don't we just do that? Let's just run down who's where. So in the AFC, we'll start on the left side of that chart. You got Baltimore sitting in the 1 seed. Haven't clinched the 1 seed yet, but they play Miami this week. And so Baltimore wins that game. They clinch the 1 seed. They'll probably rest starters in week 18 against the Steelers, which becomes a very important factor if that does indeed happen. If Miami wins that game, obviously now you have a tie for that 1 seed, and I guess it would probably go to Miami for the head-to-head. But they're sitting there at the 2, just 1 game back. Kansas City, I would imagine, is pretty much locked in at the 3 seed right now, sitting at 9-6. But I mean, in theory, that is a team that I don't know could lose out and not make the playoffs at all. I don't even know. But
is that possible?
They have not clinched. Kansas City has not clinched, so they haven't even finalized their spot in the playoffs yet. But they're sitting at the number 3 at 9-6. You got Jacksonville, currently the leaders of the AFC South at 8-7, so they get the 4 seed. Cleveland, the best looking wild card spot at 10-5 right now. And there's even some scenarios where Cleveland can still get the number 1 seed in the AFC. There's a tweet today that the AFC and the NFC could run through Detroit and Cleveland this year, and wouldn't that be the crazy scenario there.
Wow.
But
I'm not
Cleveland's
putting
sitting at
money
the
on it, but that'd be great.
70 years.
I
First
wouldn't.
time in
I wouldn't.
70
But
years.
yeah, that would be insane. So Cleveland at the number 5, they're 10-5. Buffalo, who has risen from the grave, sitting pretty in that 6th seed at 9-6. Really got a close win over the Chargers that they desperately needed a few weeks ago, or I guess that was last week. I don't know. Time's been weird. Holidays are weird. And then the Colts sitting at that last wild card spot at number 7, currently 8-7 there after having dropped one against the Falcons in a game they really needed to win to be able to keep a stronger hold on that playoff spot there. But then behind them, all at 8-7, you got the Texans, the Steelers, the Bengals, and then the Raiders and the Broncos both at 7-8. So a ton that can and will happen down there. Just staying on the AFC side here for a second, the Colts and the Texans play each other in Week 18, so that game's going to be huge to the outcome as well for those teams. And then the Jaguars with questionable Trevor Lawrence as well. So you got 3 AFC South teams that are all 8-7,
Dillon,
and there's still one game left to be played amongst them. Yes, Cam.
Dillon, you know what's crazy?
What's
What
crazy?
really, really stinks? You know who I have to root for this week? The Steelers.
All right. Well, season's over. It was a good run. Those of you that don't know, there is a curse that if any of us have to root for the other's team in playoff implication scenarios, that team always loses. They have never won when we've been rooting for another. Yeah, I was 0 for 4 last week. I needed all you guys to win, and nobody did. So
Drew is the worst one of it. It's just like
he started
it's like
it.
black
He
magic.
did.
It's black magic, and he's giving it to all of us.
He started it, and then it's been spreading over. So I guess at least he can rule the Steelers out of this scenario. But mathematically, a lot can happen, and really realistic scenarios for all of these teams. If the Jags win out, they're in. The Colts win out, they're in. The Texans win out, they're in. For teams that are below them, the Steelers and the Bengals, if you win out, you have a pretty good chance of being in, but you don't control your own destiny right now if you're below, if you're in seeds 9, 10, 11, 12. Those are the teams that are looking for help. So Steelers, Bengals, Raiders, Broncos, you're looking pretty much, all 4 of those teams need the same thing to happen and some. So the Steelers, you need either Jacksonville to lose a game or you need – it's kind of a weird one, but whoever wins Week 18 between the Colts and the Texans, you need that team to lose Week 17, their respective games, for the Steelers to jump them. You just need them both to lose at least once. The Bengals need all of that to happen, and they need the Steelers to lose. The Raiders
3-7
need
in the conference. That is their deal breaker, really.
That and 0-5 in division does not help anybody. You can't go 0-5 and make the playoffs, and if they do, hats off to them. But I don't think it'll happen. But the Bengals need all that stuff to happen and the Steelers to lose. The Raiders need all of that stuff to happen, the Steelers to lose, and the Bengals to lose. And the Broncos need all of that stuff to happen and the Steelers to lose and the Bengals to lose and the Raiders to lose. So the farther down you go, the crazier, obviously, different scenarios become.
Hold on. That needs to be talked about for a second. Jared Stidham coming in for Russell Wilson after, honestly, they had a great chance to put themselves in place to win their conference. And division. Then you kind of just division. You kind of just shit the bed. Yeah. And then your star quarterback gets benched?
Yeah. So, they did it because if he fails to pass a physical, that's like in March, so in a couple of months, they would owe him not only his 30-something million that's already guaranteed for 2024, but an additional like $40 million for an injury settlement from 2025 that would be moved up. So basically, if Russ gets hurt in these final 2 games, instead of owing him $30 million next year, they would owe him like $80 million. So it was a money decision, not a like he sucks decision, but nonetheless, this is a team that's 7-8 that should not be 7-8. Obviously, they had better aspirations this year. They started off very, very poor, got really, really hot, won a bunch of games in a row, got into a position where, hey, this is a team that has a really good chance of getting this playoff spot, and then they drop a couple bad games late, now they're back to that the 12th seed in the AFC, looking at that draft simulator more than the playoff simulator. And now you have a huge decision to make on a quarterback that's got like 5 years of an extension left, owed like $40 million a year, and your team is 7-8. That's a tough spot to be in. So good point.
Yeah,
Cam.
they currently only have a 7% chance of making the playoffs, but with a win, it go up to like 12%. You got to think, had they beaten the Patriots, things will be a little bit. I mean, they win any of those games.
There's a lot
They're
of
in a
teams
spot
that have they just beaten the Patriots.
This is true. They're in a spot like with Kansas City only at 9-6. It's like this could have been the year that somebody else could have taken the AFC West from Kansas City, but the Chargers, they have their dysfunction. They have their problems, which we've highlighted. The Raiders, they've had their problems with dysfunction, and then like you guys just highlighted with the Broncos. So this, in general, the AFC is having a down year, which makes it a little bit tougher for some of those teams that are at the bottom. That's like, man, had this broken our way, we can not only be in the tournament, but we have a legitimate chance at advancing and winning a couple games just because of how down the entire AFC is. I mean, there's only two teams that have clinched playoff spots in the AFC right now. With 2 weeks to go.
And that it's that down of the AFC just means like instead of teams being 13-3, they're all like 10-7. 8-7 right now. You need to probably get to 10 wins to make it in the playoffs, and it's just crazy. Like it's shout out to Drew, not here today, but his favorite saying is, "It's very hard to win in the NFL," and you're seeing that. Like last week, how many teams lost to a team with a worse record? Like I feel like there was a good handful of games that happened, and the week before that. I mean, every week a team will lose a game they're not supposed to. I mean, that's why it's so hard to get the pick'ems right, because upsets happen every single time, and it's impossible.
Or the NFL wants you to win and celebrate Christmas. So that's always fun.
I wasn't going to go that far.
Christmas.
I was going to say, though, on your point of the records look similar, look at the NFC side at the bottom. It's 7-8, 7-8, 7-8, 7-8, 7-8.
That's just disgusting.
And then you got 11. You have a three-way tie, but the 49ers own everybody in the NFC, so they do have the best conference record also. But you have 11-4, 11-4, and 11-4. With shout out to the Lions, congratulations! Don't be annoying about it. And then you have Tampa Bay.
Big of you. That was very big of you, Cam. I'm so
proud. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on right now, and it's not gonna get discussed. And then we have Tampa Bay. Baker might have found a home. He might have found a home.
Dude,
he's looking real good there with that good old line.
His home was in Cleveland, and they abandoned him. I mean, I'll stand by that Cleveland should have kept him as their quarterback. He won a playoff game in Cleveland. I mean, I don't know what more they wanted from the guy, but yeah, shout out to Tampa
just
Bay.
Won. Dominated.
That was
Absolutely,
not a domination.
You know,
do you remember what the final score of that game was?
I do, but I also remember the first quarter, which was hilarious.
Okay. It's a good thing that games do not end after the first quarter.
That is a good thing.
Yeah,
it was an 11-point game by the end, for the record.
And then we're going to move to Dallas, who I really think they will end up with the 5 seed. I don't think there's any chance of.
Yeah, they might even be locked into the 5 seed right now. Well, I guess not, but
they had to beat Miami, and then they needed some help from other teams because they didn't have that tiebreaker over the Eagles. Like had both the Eagles and the Cowboys won out, Eagles were still going to get the division crown, and that's one thing Drew has mentioned a couple times, that there's a few things that need to break in their way for Dallas to make that, and those things haven't broken, and also they haven't helped themselves with losses to teams like Miami and such.
Here's an interesting stat I'm looking at for this. The Dallas Cowboys have a strength of victory stat higher than only 2 other teams in this entire playoff race, and that's the Saints and the Bears.
Dang, the Vikings
do with that information what you want.
The Vikings from last year, we're not going to talk about it. It's literally the 2022 Minnesota Vikings, and that needs to be talked about more. And they were called fraud, so Drew, you're calling your team fraudulent. But that's not going to get talked about.
Man's not here to defend himself, and you're just going in on it.
Yep. I'm
There's
going in.
I want to discuss. the Dolphins right now, they have the number 2 seed. They're currently in that 2 seed. They've clinched a playoff spot. They haven't clinched a division yet. And even though they're the second team to clinch a spot in the AFC, they could still be a wild card team. With Miami's schedule, week 17, if they lose to Baltimore and Buffalo beats New England, you go into week 18 with the Bills and the Dolphins playing each other for that AFC East title.
Wow.
crazy.
Wow. And
So
that,
the Bills,
right now,
like,
I'd bet the Bills are probably favored to win the AFC East. I bet they
should be.
The Ravens
I
are going to
think
be
they should be.
favored in that first game and then, toss up in that second game. And I
It's
think
in
Buffalo's got
Miami.
New England this week.
Yep, Buffalo has New England. So that if things break in Buffalo's direction, they go from a team that you mentioned, Dillon, they were dead. And now they could be the number 2 seed. Like, a good chance of them actually being the number 2 seed. Because
I
it's
have
not
to,
just like
yeah.
hyperbole. It's not.
I have to eat some crow a little bit because I was anti-Bills hard preseason,
too.
All
and
of you were.
in the middle of the year, I put a
We
fork
were.
in them, and they have won some games. Dismantled the Cowboys, beat the Chiefs, granted
Really
with some
shit on the Cowboys.
controversy. They did,
I think that game was
and
close.
then
What was the final
they've
score?
served. You're living a lot through other people's victories right now, Cam.
That's all
I'll
I
say
can do.
that
I'm
much.
7-8, and I have Nick Mullins as my starting quarterback. Leave me alone.
Yeah, you've seen a quarterback throw 4 interceptions in a game like twice now this year, haven't you?
Yup.
That's impressive. That is impressive. Anyways, we're here to talk about playoffs.
Agree.
Playoffs.
Playoff?
Yeah, Buffalo. That's not a team you want to play in said playoffs. That team's hot. They're getting hot at the right time. And like Drew said, the logo, the colors in the Super Bowl logo, the purple actually stands for the Bills with blue and red coming together. So crazy.
It's possible, man. It with how dead I thought they were, with how fraudulent I thought this team was going to be. I'm really eating my words because how many times did I say this past offseason, the Bills are going to finish third in the division? Like, they may not even make the playoffs. And there is a more than realistic possibility that they are not just going to win the AFC East, but be the number 2 seed.
Now, if we can stay on this topic just a little bit longer, if we also want to bring up the Indianapolis Colts take, that'd be also nice. If we want to talk about the AFC South.
What about them? What about them? You got the floor. Run with it.
I did say that the Colts have a shot. I did say it with Richardson, but
yes, I feel that is a very distinct difference. This team with Gardner Minshew, who is a competent QB1 in the league, versus a rookie Anthony Richardson. I firmly believe that if Richardson was the QB of the Colts, they would not be 8-7. They would have a worse record. Just, Richardson's got the higher ceiling than Minshew, but Minshew has brought that floor that they needed, especially once Jonathan Taylor got hurt. And throughout the middle of that season, they kept winning games. They had a strong defense. It just felt like Minshew. Yeah, Minshew's consistency brought that team some wins. And, in a game like against the Falcons where they just don't play well overall, maybe it costs them a little bit not to have a game-changing guy like Richardson, who might have had like an 80-yard scramble to win that game had he been healthy right now in the season. Who knows? But yes, Cam, you did say that in the preseason. We ragged on you pretty hard for it.
Laughed me out of the building.
Yeah. You also said the Vikings were the Avengers and got laughed out of the building. So it's fair to say that you do have
baited.
You do have a lot of things on the spectrum there. But that was, the Colts are a good team, and they control their own destiny. Let's talk about that for a second. Who controls their own destiny? Who doesn't? Obviously, the two teams that have already clinched, Ravens and Dolphins, each of them control their own destiny for what they're trying to accomplish. You win out, you get that top seed. So those two are taken care of. The Chiefs, if you win out, you're good. You're pretty much locked into the 3 seed at this point. I guess you could overtake Miami for the 2 seed potentially. But odds are you're in that 3 seed if you win out. And then the Jags. You're in your driver's seat for the AFC South. You win out, you're good. But remains to be seen if Trevor Lawrence comes back. So we'll see there. But again, you win out there, you're good. Browns, you win out, you're good. And the Browns, again, are not eliminated from that number 1 seed, like I mentioned. If Ravens lose out and the Dolphins lose out and the Browns win out, the Browns get the number 1 seed in the AFC with Joe Flacco, who is just absolutely slinging the ball right now and playing well.
Not to cut you off,
Yeah,
Dillon.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Keep going on Cleveland because that's what I was going to touch on.
Yeah, I was just, Joe Flacco's always had like a really pretty ball.
Really pretty deep ball.
When you throw it.
He throws like a pretty deep ball.
He's one of those guys. He's one of those guys where when he throws it in slow motion, that ball just has so much spiral zip to it. It just looks so good going through the air.
I'm excited to see it in person. I really am.
Yeah.
I get to see it in person for Thursday Night Football, and I'm pumped to see just the velocity on that. It's going to be beautiful. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Where are they playing right now? They playing in Detroit?
It'll be Cleveland Jets Thursday night.
Detroit plays the Cowboys.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I knew that.
But
sorry.
It's going to be his deep ball is so nice. It is.
It's always
a thing
been.
Of beauty.
And Amari Cooper has unlocked into an unbelievable weapon, and that's another team that you really do not want to play. And you're starting to see who these kind of AFC favorites are. Like, it's Baltimore, obviously. It's Miami. It's Cleveland, and it's Buffalo. I think those are your 4 right now. Stefanski is a fraud of a coach.
Coach of the year? Are you a fraud? No. How do you say he's a fraud right now?
Because they should have probably 3 more wins than they do.
So
look who they're missing.
I said on the pod that Stefanski deserves Coach of the Year hype. I don't think he wins Coach of the Year. I think it goes to John Harbaugh. Especially if the Ravens clinch that number 1 seed, it's going to go to John Harbaugh. But if you look at the Browns, one thing I wanted to say about them is if they win out, I was messing with this playoff machine here. They win out, they're going to have the second best team or the second best record in the AFC as a 5 seed. Because they'll be crazy. The way I have it right now is Ravens 13-4 because I think they'll beat Miami, and then they'll also. Oh, I actually have them losing to the Steelers because they've already had that 1 seed clinched. I think that's fair.
Playing the backups.
Cleveland, I think they win out because they have the Jets and the Bengals. They'll be 12-5. I think they'll be 12-5, heading to Jacksonville and getting a wild card victory.
That's a very good matchup for them.
That's a great matchup for them.
Yeah.
Like Cleveland, you've mentioned Bills. Those are teams that you absolutely do not want to play right now because they're getting hot at the right time. And that's so important in the playoffs is when are you hot as a team? The Dolphins are starting to get hot, but I think they'll cool off with the Baltimore game. Baltimore, they've been hot all season, it seems like. But Cleveland and Buffalo, especially right now, are hot. And then you look at teams that are cold, and there's a lot of concern about Kansas City because they're probably going to lock up the 3 seed. They have the Chargers and the Bengals. Like they should be able to get those wins. Nothing's guaranteed. They just lost to the Raiders. But the way I have this playoff machine set up, they're going to host Miami. Tyreek Hill is going to go back to Kansas City the way it's looking right now. Do you really think the Dolphins are going to lose to the Chiefs?
You got the Buffalo winning the East in that scenario.
Yeah, in that scenario.
Either way, you got Miami or you got Buffalo, who has already
and they've already lost to Buffalo.
Yeah, yeah, looking tough for Chiefs fans right now.
Yeah, and then I think you're going to see 2
receivers,
offensive line.
Turns out that's important.
Yeah, who would have thought? And it looks like you're going to see.
Run around.
Yeah, they found that out in the Super Bowl, and what did they? Their Super Bowl loss, and you would think they would have learned heading into this year that you need wide receivers, you need offensive line, but hey, they won with barely any wide receivers last year. We can run it back again, correct? No. The way it looks right now, you're going to have 2 AFC South teams. You're going to have the winner, which is probably going to be Jacksonville, Because if Jacksonville wins out, which I think they should be able to, granted, I don't know what Trevor Lawrence status is right now. And then you mentioned teams that control their own destiny, and you mentioned the Colts. The Texans also control their own destiny. If the Texans win out, they'll get that 7th seed. And with C.J. Stroud hopefully coming back this week, knock on wood.
He was limited today, and so he made it back
Good.
to practice
Good for
because he was
CJ.
not
Yeah,
able
he's cleared.
to get back.
He's cleared concussion protocol, so that's huge. With the Texans, they'll
He's
be
in
playing.
stage
They're
4
hosting.
concussion protocol.
Okay, my bad.
But
I
regardless,
misspoke.
he's close. He's close, regardless.
He's close. He's practicing. They host the Titans this week. That's winnable. And then it's that Texans-Colts game is more than likely going to decide who wins or who clinches that last playoff spot, which I really hope. I would love to see the NFL. I don't know if they've made a decision yet. No, they have. Haven't they, on what that last Sunday Night Football game is going to be? Have they made up? They would have had to by now, right?
For Week 18?
Yeah. Because it should be.
Let me look. The Week 18. No, Week 18 is all still to be determined. Every single game.
It should be that Colts-Texans game.
Yeah, it's going to come down to a good handful of games that it could be. Colts-Texans, it's going to be up there because that's going to be huge for determining.
That one or Bills-Dolphins.
Bills-Dolphins, if it comes down to the AFC East is probably the other that it's going to be up there. And then Falcons-Saints, if that game determines the NFC South, that's another one that could be on there. So, yeah, a couple of really good games.
Let's see if the Saints. But see, the Saints would have to win out, and the Bucks would have to lose out. I mean, the Saints and the Bucks play each other Week 17, but then the Bucks go to Carolina Week 18. So even if the Bucks beat the Saints, as long as the Bucks beat the Panthers Week 18, they clinch the South. So
I am about to be the biggest Tennessee Titans fan of all time. The Titans face the Texans and they face the Jags, and I need them to win one of those games so bad. That's all it takes. If the Titans win a game, that's all it takes. If the Titans win a game and the Steelers win out, they're in.
Oh, you have to win out. Okay, I see it.
Yeah, I mean, if the Steelers lose a game, it don't matter. None of it matters. I mean, your odds are so low at that point. So, and if you lose, you don't deserve to be in it anyways.
Right. If Seattle loses, I mean, Seattle could lose to the Steelers and still make it as a 7 seed, it looks like. As long as they beat the Cardinals. If they lose to the Cardinals, let's talk about the NFC. We've spent a lot of time to the AFC.
We've spent a lot of time on the AFC.
Let's go over to the NFC. Did you already run through those seedings?
I did not. We kind of went through AFC and we stuck on the AFC. So in the NFC, you got your three-way. It's not a tie at the top. They're all 11-4, but the 49ers have that win over the Eagles and the Lions. They win based on best win percentage in conference games because they are 9-1 in the conference. But at the top, San Francisco 49ers, 11-4. They've already won the division. Again, control their own destiny for that number 1 seed. Eagles at 2 right now, also 11-4. They currently are winning over Detroit based on strength of victory. So I believe, again, they have their destiny for the 2 seed if they win out, and then obviously need some help for the 1 seed. And then the Lions, sitting there at the 3, you need both the 49ers and the Eagles to drop a game and to win out for you to get the 1 seed. But all 3 have already clinched, and then not true?
If the Eagles can win out and the Lions can win out, Lions will still be the 1 seed if the 49ers drop a game.
Oh, so the strength of victory must flip because the Lions have Dallas and the Vikings again. But Dallas, yeah.
So if the Lions win out, which I don't know if they do.
Does that change if Dallas loses
Probably
out?
Don't. I think Minnesota takes them in Detroit. In all honesty, with Jared Hall.
I don't think so.
Jared Hall.
I don't think so.
Dallas can lose out, and it's still going to give the Lions a 1 seed.
Okay. All right.
If the 49ers drop a game.
Very,
That's
very
the big thing.
interesting. Very interesting.
49ers would have to lose to, they play the Rams the last week of the season or the Commanders this week. And
I mean,
if they lose one of those two games and the Lions win out, Lions are number 1 seed. That would be
Interesting.
insane around here. If the Lions have the number 1 seed, that's
yeah.
more realistic. That's more realistic than I thought when we started this episode.
Yeah. I mean, 49ers have
saying
had
it's
their games this year where they dropped a random one.
The Rams
You
always
mean got
I feel like-
dominated by the Vikings? That's their random loss, and I love it. That's
I
my
wouldn't really
claim
say
to fame this season.
dominated. It kind of came
They
down to
had
the end there.
injuries, and they had a lot of injuries.
And that's fine. We had everybody out our last game, so I'm okay.
I wouldn't say
We're good.
Vikings
Keep going.
dominated. Anyways, the Rams always, I think the game to watch or pay attention to for the 49ers is the Rams. Because I feel like the Rams always play the 49ers tough. It's a division game.
Rams play
Rams
everybody
are-
tough, it feels like.
They do. The Rams
And
are still
Matthew
gonna be fighting
Stafford's
for
healthy
playoff.
right now, so
They're going to be fighting for playoff seeding, playoff spot. So if the 49ers drop that game, things are going to get interesting. That is
yeah. So that's your top three. Tampa Bay sitting in the 4 right now at 8-7. Dallas already clinched 10-5, the 5 seed, and then also at 8-7, the Rams in the 6th seed, Seahawks in the 7th seed, and then still in contention in the NFC. The Vikings 7-8, the Falcons 7-8, the Packers 7-8, the Saints 7-8, and then the Bears at 6-9 are still alive, and it's actually not super crazy that they make it.
They have less than 1% chance.
All right.
But
Yeah, but it's
even
like
with the win, they
Hold on.
they only have a 1% chance. Of
Hold
making it.
hold on. Here's New York Times is making me log in.
Gosh.
Keep going. And I will circle back to what
Bears-
needs to happen for the Bears.
The Bears probably, if they lose this week, they'll probably get eliminated. The
Yeah,
Falcons-
they do get eliminated as soon as they lose.
I really think it's going to come down to, for that final seed, it's going to be some combination. The final 2 seeds, the 6th and 7th seed, is going to be some combination of Rams, Seahawks, Vikings, Packers, maybe? It looks
Packers
like,
have to beat the Vikings. That'll be decided this week.
well, yes. If the Packers win, they have a 56% chance of making the playoffs. If the Vikings win, they only have a 50% chance. Vikings
They
currently
have the tiebreaker over the Seahawks, so that's why I would need the Steelers to win,
Gotcha.
sadly.
It is interesting seeing like the percentage chances of winning. Like if the Packers lose, 1% chance. If the Vikings lose, 5% chance of making the playoffs. Saints
Listen.
and Bears both lose, less than 1%, so pretty much eliminated. The Falcons lose, they're 5% chance of making the playoffs. So things are getting
All right.
interesting there in the
All right,
NFC.
I got it pulled
got
up.
it up?
I got it pulled up. Sorry for the delay. Obviously, the Bears have to win out. If the Bears win out, they go up to a 3% chance of making it. Here's what has to happen. The Giants have to beat the Rams. Tyrod Taylor back in the fold. It's possible. Steelers have to beat the Seahawks. Certainly possible. We will see. And that's week 17. Week 18, Cardinals have to beat the Seahawks. So Seahawks, you have to lose out. 49ers have to beat the Rams in week 18. Obviously, certainly possible. Let me see what else has to happen. Looks like
That looks like
Buck-
it's about it.
the Buck. Is that it?
Oh, I didn't put in everything else.
I
So
think
I
the
don't know.
Buccaneers have to beat the Saints, which is certainly possible.
Yep.
And the Vikings have to beat the Packers. If that happens, they're in. If that happens, they're in.
It looks like if the Vikings beat the Packers, who do the Vikings play? Oh, no? If the
Or
Vikings beat the Packers.
or if the Lions beat the Vikings in week 18. You're like there's a couple of ways this thing falls, but it is not unheard of that Chicago squeaks in. I mean, I'm just saying, like the craziest thing that would have to happen is the Cardinals beating the Seahawks.
Tom's gonna love hearing that.
I mean, Tom, And the Giants beating the Rams. That's also probably and the craziest thing is that the Bears win out. If we're being honest, that's probably the craziest thing to happen.
I mean,
But
they have the
it's
Falcons
doable.
and then the Packers, so it's doable.
I mean,
It'll be
for the Bears' sake, I hope you do. That would just be funny
it'll be
and
like
cool.
that COVID year where they just randomly made the playoffs.
Oh yeah. Well, the Bears are still going to have the first overall pick anyways, so it's not like it's going to impact
They
their
don't
ability
even
to have the first pick.
they don't even need the Vikings to beat the Packers, but they do need the Lions to beat or I guess you either need the Vikings to win in week 17 or the Vikings to lose in week 18. One or the other, with all that other stuff, would get them in. That's not super far-fetched. That's all I'm saying.
So I'm going to start putting together what I think is going to happen, and then by the end of the episode, I'm going to give my final prediction of who makes the playoffs. So
I can do that too. I'll see what my final prediction is.
So, right, Cam. What needs to happen for the Vikings to make the playoffs?
You have to win out. I think you could maybe get lucky at 8 and 9, but you have to win out. And there is talks of Jaron Hall coming in, and he looked very comfortable when he was in for that one drive. So it shows promise that he sees the game. He was able to deal with the pressure. I think he needs to play much, much better. I think he needs to take the shots that Mullins did, except for throwing it straight to the defense.
That would help.
You got to win out. I think it doesn't matter if you don't beat the Packers, and then you have to come with some type of fire like to the Lions because you lost on a game losing interception on a drive where you had somebody wide open, and you didn't have Addison, you didn't have Hawkinson, you didn't have Davenport, who's been like gone the whole year, and we paid him $9 million, and I've never seen a bigger fraud signed to the Vikings organization, and I hope he's good riddance next year. We lost Wanu, which is our stud, I think he's third or fourth year defensive end out of South Carolina. He's the mini Daniil Hunter. He's gone. So you had a lot of parts that were missing, and you lost by 6 to potentially the 1 seed. So come out with a little bit more fire. Win the next 2 games. You're in the playoffs. And Seahawks and Steelers, come through once, please. That's all I'm asking.
It's not going to happen.
Once.
I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I really think the Seahawks win that game.
We don't even know who's starting at QB yet, so do not have faith in the Steelers, man. Don't do it. It's a trap. I do this every year. It's a trap. Steelers with the playoffs on the line, they're losing, man. They're losing. Absolutely. But next week when it's a game to make the 9-8 season, they're winning by 40. Mike Tomlin does not go below 500, man.
Hey, he's going to get his 500. He's going to get his 500 record when the Ravens are sitting everybody.
Yeah, or the Steelers do beat Seattle. They have playoffs on the line in Week 18 against backups, and that is when they will lay an egg and lose like 13 to 10 or something in the rain. I've seen that happen before as well. Very sad.
That's very heartbreaking. So,
yeah.
All right. Before we go through like our final predictions, I think the Ravens clinch the 1 seed. I think that's going to happen. I believe. What's the playoff? All they have to do is win this week. I'm looking at the.
They win against Miami. They get it. That's it.
Yep. And then they clinch the AFC North division with a win or a Browns tie. But really, the Ravens, if they win, they beat Miami. They're the 1 seed, and then they're going to rest everybody Week 18. Let's look at some of these other clinching scenarios for this week that are somewhat simple. Let me see if I can scroll down the list. The Bills can clinch a playoff berth with the most doable seems like if they win, all these scenarios for the Bills is going to be if they win, if the Steelers lose, and if the Bengals lose or tie. So that seems like the most reasonable scenario, seeing as the Steelers play the Seahawks and then the Bengals play the Chiefs. So as
Who
long
was
as the
that
Bills
for?
win,
That was the
the
Bills.
Bills.
Okay.
That was the first one, and then there's 13 others for the Bills. I'm not going to read all
There,
13.
there's a lot of ors, ands and
A
ors
lot
in
of
there.
ors, a lot of ands and ors. The Browns, they'll clinch their playoff berth with a win, or a Steelers loss, or a Bills loss, or a Jaguars loss, or a Houston loss, and a Colts loss. But as long as the Browns win tonight, because we're putting this episode up on Thursday, as long as the Browns win this evening, they're going to clinch the playoffs, which is actually probably going to be a fun environment. I'm cheering for the opposing team, but I'm sure the environment's going to be great with the playoffs on the line. All they have to do is win. Browns are going to
Gonna
make
be
the
so
playoffs.
nice to you.
I hate the Browns.
The Jaguars clinch playoffs and the AFC
hate
South
the
Division
Browns.
title with a win, a Colts loss, and a Texans loss. So pretty much they need Colts and Texans to lose, and they need themselves to win. That's how the Jaguars clinch the AFC South title this week.
And they got the
Chiefs.
Panthers, so they're going to be favored in that game, even if they're playing Bethard.
Right.
Bethard.
That'd be funny though. I mean, that's a game that the Panthers could win.
I mean, the Panthers are not. They don't have 0 wins, so
right. They nearly beat the Packers, which
Who knows?
says something.
Yeah.
Could have beat the Packers.
who knows?
They should have beat the Packers.
Stupid idiots.
The Chiefs clinched the AFC West title with a win or a Vegas loss and a Denver loss. So if the Chiefs win this week, it looks like if the Chiefs win, the Bills win, and then the Steelers lose, the Bills and the Chiefs are both going to clinch their spots in the playoffs. So we're going to get a couple teams clinch this week. It's what it seems like right now, heading into Week 18. Some of those teams are going to be clinched. The Dolphins clinch the AFC East with a win or a Bills loss. And then going over to the NFC side of things, the Rams can clinch a playoff berth, which Cam was crapped on for a couple things with his preseason predictions. I definitely got some strong words, some strong opinions, some really going with the Rams as your second team of the year. Yes, I am. And they are going to make the playoffs if they win and Seattle loses. So if the Steelers win and the Rams win, Rams clinch the playoffs. Or if the Rams win and the Packers and Vikings tie, which that scenario never plays out, even though it would have been funny had it 2 years
Happened
ago
once.
with the Chargers and Raiders. It seems like that one never plays out where you're relying on a tie. But the Rams, they're that close to clinching the playoffs. Eagles clinch the NFC East with a win and a Dallas loss, or a tie and a Dallas loss. Why is there 2 scenarios? Oh, I guess if they tie. Not out of the world of possibilities, because I don't know what Lions team we're going to see in Dallas. That game is going to have a lot of implications, it seems like, with Dallas and the Lions. The Lions could potentially be looking toward trying to grab the 1 seed. Dallas still trying to keep their hopes alive for the NFC East. They need a lot of help, but if the Eagles win and the Cowboys lose, Eagles clinch the East. The 49ers clinch the 1 seed with a win, a Detroit loss, and an Eagles loss. The Seahawks clinch a playoff berth with a win and a Packers-Vikings tie. So if the Packers and Vikings tie, we could have 2 teams clinch a playoff spot this week in the NFC. And then the Buccaneers clinch the NFC South with a win or a tie and a Falcons loss. So
That's a lot.
there's a lot there. There's a lot
It's
I've
like-
said, but
You know that meme of the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's like got crazy eyes, and it's the red string is going
Charlie.
everywhere, and
You
he's got a
didn't.
marker. Yeah,
it's all in the mail.
Yeah, I've never actually watched that show. You can shame
It's a
me
great
if you want to. It's on my list. I've just never gotten around to it. But yeah, I mean, that's where we're at right now, and that's the beauty of this whole thing. I mean, there's I don't know what it is. It's like 48 trillion ways the NFL season can end still. Yeah, just absolutely nuts. So, Gil, why don't you go ahead and go through your predicted final seeding?
I'll give my prediction. You give your prediction. Cam, you can give your predictions if you have any, or final thoughts, and then we'll give this a wrap. So I went through. I picked who I think is going to win these games. A couple of the games that I picked to win. I have the Cowboys beating the Lions. I have the Vikings beating the Packers. Ravens beating the Dolphins in Week 17, and then and the Seahawks beating the Steelers. Week 18, I have the Steelers beating the Ravens, the Bills beating the Dolphins, Lions beating the Vikings, 49ers beating the Rams. So those are a few of the games that I have to kind of help paint the picture here. So my 1 seed is the Ravens. My 2 seed is the Bills. 3 seed the Chiefs. 4 seed the Jaguars. And then your wild card matchups would be the Bills versus the 7 seed Texans. The Chiefs playing the 6 seed Dolphins. And then the Jaguars hosting the 5th seed Browns. Do you want to give your AFC or do you want me to give my NFC now?
I can give my AFC. We had different games picked. So, like, for example, I have the Steelers winning out. I have a couple of different things happening. But unfortunately for me as a Steelers fan, I have the same exact 7 seedings. And it's actually funny because we picked different games, but we get to the same place because that's just how many different scenarios there are. I think Stroud comes back, and I think he leads Houston to the playoffs and locks up his Rookie of the Year. And any other award they want to give to him, go ahead because he's been great. I have
Agreed.
Buffalo winning out and getting that number 2 seed because I think Miami's going to lose to Baltimore as well. Cleveland I got winning out, and Jacksonville I have winning out just due to a byproduct of their very easy schedule and backup quarterbacks that they will play for the rest of the year.
That is funny that we both had the same.
You know what? I'm gonna switch my pick. I'm gonna say Tennessee beats Jacksonville in Week 18. Houston gets the 4 seed and wins the AFC South, and the Steelers make it into the 7 seed. Just to be different. This won't happen though because Pittsburgh will let me down once again. But that would be fun. I would love to see Houston win the division.
I would too. I really would. But
and
if
and
that
I have
scenario
the
plays
Colts.
out,
I have the Colts dropping out because I have them losing to the Raiders in Week 17.
Gotcha. I just have the Colts. I have the Colts beating the Raiders, but I have the Texans beating the Colts. Week 18.
That'll do it.
So, if the Colts win that Texans game, if the Colts win out and then the Jaguars drop 1, then we see what Cam was talking about in the preseason of the Colts making the playoffs, of the Colts winning the division as a 4 seed. So that's definitely still in play. Cam, you want to give us a couple quick predictions or your rundown of the AFC before I give my NFC?
Yeah, not really. Actually, I'm gonna plead the 5th.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I'll just say the Colts to win the division.
Okay,
I like it.
Sticking with the preseason, can't go wrong with that.
No.
Let's see what else I could say here.
You said no, but then yes.
Just give me
question. While you're thinking,
Miami gets the 1 seed.
Miami gets the 1 seed.
I'm gonna say Miami gets the 1 seed to be different.
I like being different.
Okay. All right. If Miami wins out, they get the 1 seed.
I mean, here's the golden thing about all this, Gil. No one's ever gone 16-0 in the pick'ems ever.
No,
in 3 years. So we're wrong.
Cade was
probably.
Close. Cade was close.
Cade was close. I think Cade has the all-time best. I think he had like 2 losses or 3.
It was 15-1 or 14-2, something like that.
I think it was 14-2 is the best. But regardless, that means we're wrong probably. Yep. So something's going to happen.
We are wrong somewhere. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I was about to ask you who you think wins the East, but Cam, if you think the Dolphins grab the 1 seed, then they win the East. That answers the question I was going to have for you.
And then I'm going to finish it off with the Jets. Go Jets for the rest of the season. Just
Okay.
let's not lose these last two games, guys.
Okay.
A lot riding on these last two games.
Don't you want the Jets to lose so that you don't owe me $50?
That is correct. So that's why I'm rooting for them.
Oh, you're a jackass. That's what you're saying. Got it.
Oh, he's using the
I'm,
curse.
I'm
All right.
currently up. What are you? 5
The
and
curse. The curse only works if it's
We're 6 and
genuine,
9.
though. The curse only works
We're
if it's genuine desire.
We're 6 and
It
9,
knows.
Cam.
9? Nice.
Very nice. 6-9.
Anyways.
6-9. Very nice. All right, let's go
Anyways.
to
What
the
if we
NFC.
tie at the end of the season? I'm gonna
Then you pay
cry.
each other $50.
You're going to see 2 Venmo transactions, one from me and one to me, and then also for you. My NFC predictions. I have the 49ers clinching that 1 seed. They're going to win out. The only game I think that gives them a scare is going to be that Rams game, but I do think the Rams or the 49ers will clinch that spot. It's in San Francisco. They're going to have that 1 seed on the line. They're going to clinch it. The Eagles are going to clinch the 2. Detroit is going to be the 3 seed, and then Tampa Bay is going to be the 4. And with Detroit being the 3, that means I think the Cowboys do beat the Lions. I think that happens week 17. And then the Buccaneers are going to clinch the division in week 17 this week.
You know, most of our viewers are Lions fans.
I mean, it makes sense. There's still a realistic possibility that the Lions do have the 1 seed, like we've already mentioned, but I think they have the 3.
That's not true.
think
A
they're
lot of our
frauds?
YouTube viewers are Steelers fans. Just for the record,
Oh,
shout out
okay.
to my crew, Steeler Nation.
Interesting. Okay, so we don't get, in my prediction, we don't have the Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit storyline. Instead, I have the Eagles hosting the Rams. Rams are going to be the 7. I'm working backwards now. The Lions are going to get a rematch against Seattle in the 6th seed. And then Tampa Bay is going to host the Cowboys as a 5. So you're 1, 2, 3, 4. San Fran, Philly, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Dallas, Seattle, LA. That's my 1 through 7. LI.
Okay, all right.
What you got, Dylan?
I have the same 7 teams, but in a different order. So I got San Fran locking up the 1 seed. I think they're going to win out against the Commanders and whoever and the Rams. I think they'll beat the Rams in week 18. Would be interesting if there's a point where Lions lose and the Eagles lose for whatever reason and they rest the starters against the Rams. But regardless, I think San Francisco gets the 1. I have Detroit getting the 2 seed by beating Dallas and beating Minnesota. They're going to win out. They're going to finish 13-4. Philadelphia with the 3 seed. Again, I think they win out against the Giants.
Stop
and
saying that.
Saying what?
You know what you're saying. I'm not going to say it.
And the Cardinals.
And the Cardinals are going to win out. And then the 4 seed, I'm going to Tampa Bay. They deserve it. Good for Baker.
Absolutely.
I have them
What's your 5
also
what's
winning
your 5
out.
through 7?
So my 5 is Dallas. Pretty much got that locked up. But my 6 is the Rams, and my 7 is Seattle. So again, I have Detroit hosting Seattle and Philly hosting the Rams. Just all 4 teams are in different seeds than you had the 4 teams, which again
Interesting.
is crazy that we have the same games in a
Same
different
games.
order.
That's insane.
So, and then I tried my best to just by flipping around a few games if I could get the Bears in, but I just can't do it. I'm sorry, Tom. I tried.
Hold on. I did it earlier. Let me see. What?
I only flipped games that I thought were going to happen, you know. And
Tom Love? Oh, you guys are so nice now.
well, now you're going to go ahead and make it weird and ruin it. I mean,
Let's see.
No.
Let me just.
Bears ain't making it. Bears ain't making it, and they're going to blow up the team.
Damn.
They're in a pretty good spot, to be honest. I don't know why I hate it,
All right,
but
I'm
they
done
seem to
messing
be
with
in a good spot.
I know why you hate it.
I think I'm going to put up a picture of, or put pictures up of my playoff machine on the Twitter. I think I'll share those as well so that the viewers, if you want to see what games I picked and what my playoff picture looks like, you'll be able to see that on Twitter. At some point during the day after this is posted. But Cam, what's your predictions on the NFC?
Pleading the fifth.
You don't have anything to say about the NFC?
I don't have nothing to say on it.
He's gonna try
to
avoid any bad
out.
juju. That's
Let
you
it
know
go.
what? That's probably a pretty smart way to do it because
Okay.
I say stuff, and Pittsburgh disappoints me every single chance they get.
Let it
so.
go.
Just one question. Who do you think is going to be the 1 seed?
That's easy. It's San Fran.
Okay. That's fair. I at
Philly
least wanted to get that out.
first round though.
By who?
I don't know. Whoever they play.
Okay.
I don't think they're built like that this year.
Well, it looks like they're going to play. I mean, from what Dillon and I both said, they could be playing the Rams, and that's going to be an interesting matchup. And I'm excited to get to the playoffs to start previewing and looking at some of these matchups. But that is our playoff picture episode. A little different this week, but this is what we felt like needed to be covered, what needed to be talked about. And I thought this was a great episode. So thank you, everybody, for listening, for tuning in. Make sure you follow us at Party Chat Sports on TikTok, on Twitter or X, and on YouTube. And if you want a little recap of last week's episode, I do have that pod up on Spotify, Apple Music, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. And there is a link to that on our Twitter or X as well. But until next time, we're going to try getting a parlay up, by the way. I'll try getting that parlay up this week. Be on the lookout for that. Until next time, have a great week 17. We'll see how many of these scenarios start breaking. We'll see
what hits.
We'll see what hits, who clinches, and we'll be back next week. Hope everyone has a happy new year. Until we see ya. Peace.
Go Cowboys.
Adios
for our boy.
The Steelers.